A security guard grabbed a worn leather backpack, a frightened little girl clung to her father's hand with tears streaming down her face, and in front of an entire room filled with executives, the CEO pointed toward the glass doors without a second glance. The single father was humiliated, escorted out of the building as whispers spread through the conference room. Less than 24 hours later, those same executives stood frozen in disbelief as the very man they had mocked walked back through those doors carrying a signed $3 million contract that could save the company's future. Before we begin this unforgettable journey, if you believe kindness always comes back, if you believe people deserve second chances, and if you believe compassion is stronger than pride, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel to become part of our growing family. Graham Mercer had never imagined that raising his 6-year-old daughter alone would become the greatest challenge of his life. 3 years earlier, his wife had passed away after a sudden illness, leaving him with overwhelming grief, unpaid medical bills, and a little girl named Eliza who depended on him for everything. Every morning Graham packed lunches, braided her hair after watching countless online tutorials, walked her to school, and then rushed to interviews or temporary construction jobs. He had once owned a small engineering consulting business that designed energy-efficient commercial buildings, but after his wife became sick, every client slowly disappeared as he devoted his time to caring for his family. What remained was a man with extraordinary talent hidden beneath worn clothes and exhausted eyes. On a bright Tuesday morning, Graham received what he believed was his final opportunity. Crestline Dynamics, one of the city's largest commercial development companies, was hiring a facilities operations manager. The position offered health insurance, stable income, and enough security to finally give Eliza the childhood she deserved. The interview was scheduled for late morning. Everything seemed perfect until the babysitter called just before he left home. Her son had been rushed to an emergency clinic, and she could not come. Graham called every friend and neighbor he knew, but no one answered. Missing the interview meant losing perhaps his only chance at rebuilding his life. Taking Eliza with him felt risky, but he had no alternative. He dressed her in her favorite yellow sweater, reminded her to quietly color in her notebook during the meeting, and promised they would celebrate afterward with ice cream, no matter what happened. The Crestline headquarters gleamed with polished marble floors, towering windows, and expensive artwork that reflected success at every turn. Executives hurried through the lobby carrying tablets and coffee while assistants coordinated meetings with practiced efficiency. Graham felt painfully out of place, yet he kept his shoulders straight because he knew his daughter was watching him. The receptionist hesitated when she saw Eliza but eventually directed them to the executive conference floor after Graham politely explained the situation. As they waited outside the boardroom, Eliza quietly colored butterflies while Graham reviewed his notes one final time. Inside the conference room, CEO Victoria Ellsworth was already irritated. Crestline had recently lost several major contracts because competitors were offering innovative sustainable designs that the company could not match. Investors were demanding answers, executives blamed one another, and Victoria felt relentless pressure to restore confidence before quarterly reports were released. When Graham entered holding Eliza's hand, several executives exchanged uncomfortable looks. Victoria's expression hardened almost instantly. She believed business required absolute professionalism, and seeing a child enter an executive interview confirmed every assumption she made before Graham spoke a single word. Without asking why Eliza was there or learning anything about Graham's qualifications, Victoria announced that the interview was over before it had begun. Her voice remained calm, but every word carried enough weight to crush years of determination. She insisted that Crestline was not a daycare and claimed executives could not take candidates seriously if they arrived with children. The room fell silent while Graham tried to explain his circumstances, but his explanation never mattered. Security was called. Eliza tightly squeezed her father's hand, confused by the adults staring at them as though they had done something shameful. As Graham walked through the lobby surrounded by embarrassed security staff, he felt something inside him break. He was not angry because he had lost another job. He was heartbroken because his daughter had witnessed someone dismiss his dignity without ever giving him a chance. Outside the building, Eliza looked up and smiled despite everything. She told her father that she still thought he was the smartest person in the world because he always fixed things that other people could not. Those innocent words became the only reason Graham did not surrender to despair. Instead of returning home defeated, Graham sat with Eliza at a nearby public park while she played on the swings. As he watched construction cranes rising across the skyline, an old memory returned. Years earlier he had designed an advanced environmental cooling system for large commercial complexes. The prototype dramatically reduced energy costs, but he never found investors willing to fund large-scale implementation before family responsibilities forced him to close his business. That afternoon Graham opened the worn backpack that security had nearly taken from him. Inside rested his old engineering sketches, calculations, and digital files stored on a weathered laptop. For years he believed the project belonged to the past. Now it represented his final opportunity. Through an old university friend, Graham learned that Northgate Holdings was searching for sustainable engineering solutions for a massive public redevelopment initiative worth millions. Most major firms were competing for the project, including Crestline Dynamics. Graham spent every remaining daylight hour refining his proposal while Eliza sat beside him at public libraries drawing pictures and quietly encouraging him with the confidence only a child could possess. She never complained about long afternoons surrounded by blueprints because she believed every drawing her father created would someday become a real building. The proposal Graham developed combined innovative cooling systems, recyclable construction materials, and intelligent energy management software that lowered operating expenses far beyond existing industry standards. Independent consultants reviewing submissions were astonished by the originality and practicality of the design. Northgate executives invited Graham to present his proposal the following morning. Unlike the interview at Crestline, the Northgate meeting began with curiosity instead of judgment. Executives asked thoughtful questions, listened carefully, challenged his calculations, and gradually realized they were speaking with an engineer whose ideas could transform commercial construction. By late afternoon they offered Graham something beyond his expectations. Rather than purchasing only his design, they proposed a strategic consulting agreement worth $3 million to oversee implementation across multiple developments. As Graham signed the agreement, he did not celebrate with expensive dinners or luxury purchases. He took Eliza to the same small ice cream shop he had promised her the day before. She proudly announced that she always knew her father would win because good people never stop trying. Meanwhile, panic spread through Crestline Dynamics. Northgate officially informed Crestline that unless Graham Mercer personally approved technical integration with several interconnected infrastructure systems, Crestline would lose its opportunity to participate in the redevelopment partnership entirely. Graham's intellectual property had become central to the project. The man they had publicly humiliated now possessed the solution they desperately needed. The next morning sunlight poured through the same glass entrance where Graham had been escorted out only one day earlier. This time he wore the same modest suit because it was still the only one he owned, but confidence had replaced uncertainty. Eliza proudly walked beside him carrying a small folder almost as if she understood history was quietly changing around them. Every executive recognized him immediately. The conference room that once felt cold now seemed strangely uncomfortable for different reasons. No one whispered this time. No one looked away. The silence reflected regret. Victoria Ellsworth entered moments later carrying reports that confirmed everything she feared. Graham's contract had already been finalized. Without his cooperation, Crestline stood to lose tens of millions in future revenue and perhaps the confidence of major investors. For the first time in many years, Victoria experienced genuine shame. She had built an impressive company by making rapid decisions, but somewhere along the journey she had forgotten that people were not resumes, appearances, or assumptions. They carried invisible battles no one else could see. She acknowledged that she had judged Graham without asking a single meaningful question. She admitted she had humiliated not only a qualified professional but also a devoted father standing beside his little girl. The apology was sincere, though painfully late. Graham listened quietly. He could have walked away. He could have demanded revenge. He could have enjoyed watching the company suffer exactly as he had suffered. Instead, he remembered Eliza's belief that fixing broken things mattered more than proving who had broken them. He agreed to partner with Crestline under one important condition. Every qualified applicant would receive a fair interview regardless of appearance, disability, age, family responsibilities, or financial circumstances. The company would also establish emergency childcare support during recruitment events and create scholarships for single parents pursuing careers in engineering and construction. The executives immediately accepted. Over the following months, Crestline transformed in ways no quarterly report could fully measure. Recruitment practices became more compassionate. Employee retention improved. Innovation flourished because people felt respected rather than judged. Victoria personally met with new applicants several times each month, reminding herself that extraordinary potential often arrived wearing ordinary clothes. Graham became one of the company's most respected strategic consultants while continuing to lead his independent engineering firm. Rather than chasing prestige, he focused on creating opportunities for talented people who had once been overlooked just as he had. Eliza loved visiting construction sites during family-friendly open house events where workers proudly showed her buildings her father helped design. She often carried the same notebook filled with butterfly drawings from the day everything had changed. Graham kept one page framed in his office as a reminder that hope sometimes survives even when dignity has been wounded. Years later, the story of the single father who was thrown out of an executive meeting before returning with the contract that saved the company became part of Crestline's leadership training. New managers learned that intelligence cannot always be measured by appearance, professionalism is not defined by expensive clothing, and compassion often reveals opportunities that pride can never see. Most importantly, Victoria never forgot the image of a little girl holding her father's hand while walking through those glass doors. That memory permanently changed the way she measured success. Profit still mattered, but character mattered more. Before this story comes to an end, take a moment to leave a meaningful comment and tell us what you believe was the biggest lesson in Graham's journey. Was it perseverance, forgiveness, humility, or the power of refusing to give up after being judged unfairly? Graham eventually used part of his earnings to establish a foundation helping widowed parents rebuild their careers through education, mentorship, and practical support. Every scholarship carried a simple message reminding recipients that one painful moment never defines an entire life. Eliza grew up watching her father transform rejection into generosity, and that became the greatest inheritance he could ever leave her. The glass doors that once closed behind a humiliated father eventually opened for countless families because one man chose grace over revenge. Sometimes the greatest victory is not proving others wrong. Sometimes it is proving that kindness can survive humiliation, forgiveness can overcome pride, and hope can build a future stronger than any contract ever could. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Remember that every person you meet is fighting a battle you may never see, and one act of compassion today might completely change someone's tomorrow.